I imagine like College Matt and College Matt's friends, like their version of that is they choose what song that they're going to play while they punch each other.
Yeah.
No.
The only thing you got wrong there, Caleb, is I choose all the fucking songs.
Oh, okay. That's like no. Full album, Black Flag. I'm gonna punch you for every song. Merry fucking Christmas, and then you hug.
Yeah. Yeah.
So in that vein, and this part of the conversation may make it on the show if y'all are cool with it. But why do you think that is? Why don't it's weird because y'all are right. Like friends, like back in the day, like dude friends didn't get each other gifts for holidays or things, but they should. And I don't know, like I've always kind of been that person, at least in my adult life, to where I do, but I'm also like a gay dude. So like like I'm not afraid to show affection, casual platonic affection to my guy friends. And you guys are that way. I think we've always been that way since we've been friends. It's just so weird though. Like, because I don't know. Like, why do you think that is? Why are dudes afraid to show other guys that level of camaraderie or like a gift, like, say, hey, no, dude, I totally saw this. And I say that with the idea, like I saw something the other day and it was like, oh dude, I should totally get that for Craig. Like, because unfortunately it was out of my.
He thinks of me, Matt, not you.
I picked up on that. That was
next time I see something and it reminds me of Matt.
Well,
I'll
and to be fair, how often is he going to be in a place where he's going to see something that's to my interest? He's usually probably not in those places.
Yeah, usually.
If you know what I mean.
Usually, when I see things that Matt's interested in, it's on the internet, and I just send him the link.
Yeah,
it's like, hey, fucker, it's yours.
I don't. To answer your question, I don't know. I mean, it's just not. It's like I was trying to explain last night. I was like, I mean, not all. You can't say that. That's since women do that for each other, that men should do it. The relationships are different. They're different relationships, and you can't apply a broad. You can't apply that paintbrush to every relationship you have. And not to mention, not everybody likes receiving gifts. Frankly, I don't really like receiving gifts. It's not something I really want people to. I don't really want people to buy stuff for me.
I think there's a level of that and it becomes a reciprocal thing. Like if somebody gives you a gift, then you feel responsible. So it's just easier not to do.
That's a good point. Yeah, I don't know. And I also think, well, like you said, it depends on what kind of relationship you have.
I agree.
Oh yeah, yeah.
I'm a hugger. I hug my dude friends. I don't care who they are.
I mean, I do too. So
I'm getting
not Matt though. He doesn't seem like he's a hugging type of guy.
I don't care.
I've never hugged Matt.
No, as soon as I get that second vaccine shot, I'm coming for him. Both arms, just gonna wrap around him.
You have that to look forward to, Matt.
Yeah.
No, well, okay.
Plus,
yeah.
At least in our group, in our little dynamic, we give each other gifts every week, and that is the gift of conversation in a podcast. See what I did there? See how'd you like that? This is episode 152 of the Southern
4
Fried,
episodes away.
I know. Southern Fried Geekery podcast. We are, like Craig just said, we're coming up on the 3-year anniversary.
3rd year. Yeah, 3rd year.
Redonkulous. Don't make no sense.
No, it really doesn't. You guys still like hearing my voice after 3 years?
Loves it. Never get tired of hearing your voice. You kidding?
Matt got quiet.
My man scrambling for that mute button.
Right.
But no. Yep. Almost 3 full years. It's been a fun ride. Of course, it wasn't always just us. We also had Jerry and Sean, so I've got to give them props for helping us on this journey. But it's been crazy. It's been fun. And it's been cool. We have talked about a shit ton of comics. And we've built a little community, little circle of trust, little friendship, little bonding.
Circle of trust.
And
you want to be in our circle of trust?
Yeah, right. we hold hands. It's what we do. But you can find that little circle of trust at our Facebook page. If you just go right up in that little search bar, right up there at the top, and you say Southern Fried Geekery, it'll pull up our little group, and you can join. And you can join our little be part of the club. And really, it's not so, extra. I make it sound extravagant. There's a lot of champagne involved, but mostly it's just folks talking about what they love, which is cool, right? Little positive space on the internet.
Yeah, we have a good time there.
Matt doesn't.
Yeah, I'll take your
word. Well, Matt
for
hates social medias.
It's the worst.
I mean, you're not wrong. I can't argue that at all. So,
me talking it up, trying to tell people where to come, Matt's just like, no.
Stay away.
He said, absolutely the fuck not. Anyway, I don't blame him though. We'd probably all be better off if we would just disconnect from that hell site. But it has its perks.
Sure. There are some good that come from it.
There is.
Just got to work for it. That's all.
Yep.
Pretty much. And be selective. I think that's the hardest part.
Oh, it's much better now that I've muted and or deleted about 3/4 of my friends.
Craig had a culling. He was just like, yeah, no.
If you made it through that culling, then we are still real friends.
And that's really that's a beautiful sentiment. If you're the person who made it, not so much if you're not. But all right, I got a question for you guys though.
Yeah.
What have y'all been reading this week?
Oh, a little of this, a little of that. No, I read Nightwing number 76, which I just jumped back on Nightwing last issue because Rick became Dick again. And so this is, of course, DC Comics, and it's Dan Jurgens, Ronan Cliquette, and Nick Filardi. So this is, again, Dick's back, and he's dealing with the issues and the realization, I'm not even going to try and say that word again, that his nightlife puts his people he loves at risk.
I hate it when my nightlife gives me dick issues. It's just
right,
never a good situation.
And he takes a very Bruce stance by breaking up with his girlfriend, B, which is a woman that he met in his days as Rick. I'm kind of hoping this is just a phase he's going through, because the one thing about Dick is that he's always been the optimist where Bruce is not. So I'm hoping again that this is just kind of a thing, and I love to see people going through different challenges in their lives, different these characters. We tend to get set on, well, this is his personality, nothing can ever shake that. Well, something did shake it, so it was a good story. So I also read Faithless number 2, issue number 6. Faithless 2, issue number 6, from Boom Studios, Brian Azzarello and Maria Lovett. This is the end of this story arc, and it leaves Faith in a position to get everything she wants, but at what cost? And then I read a book called Scarenthood number 1. It's IDW, Nick Roche, and Kors O'Halloran. What happens when you find out that the town urban legends and the town nut job are both correct? 20 plus years ago, a boy went missing under the stage at the town elementary school, and a young single father on a dare decides to go under the stage. He loses about 6 hours in what he perceives as 20 minutes. And some freaky shit starts to happen, and, interesting book. It's not what I thought. You get about double the pages for your regular price. Good book.
So I have that book. It's sitting on my stack, and I haven't gotten to it yet. I'm curious. You know me. You know the kind of stuff I dig. You think I'm going to like that?
Yeah, it's it's got some background story. You don't know where his wife's at, if she's passed or what's gone on there. He's trying to rearrange his life to take care of his daughter, and starts having to interact with the other townspeople at the school, the other parents, the PTA type parents, and kind of leads to these friendships, that leads to this dare, that leads to more stuff. And Yeah, it's an interesting story. I think you'll like it. Yeah.
Nice. I'm excited about it.
My next.
Well, what you got? Yeah, go ahead, brother.
Well, all three of mine in my short stack are from Marvel. This was a heavy Marvel week for me. Little book mentioned once or twice before called The Immortal Hulk from Marvel, number 40. The creative team we mentioned a million times, same one. The story just continues to be just as strong as ever. The big standout in this one was the reveal on the final page and the specific character on the reveal of the final page of this issue. I read it, the last 2 pages I read 3 times because I was so stoked about who showed up at the end of this issue. And it's a classic, folks. It's a classic, and I'm going to spoil it. It's The Thing. Oh my God. I can't wait.
Yeah. And how the Hulk broke free was fucking amazing, dude.
Yeah, dude. Just this freaking book, dude. I mean, get the fuck out of here with this book.
Yeah.
Dude, we got 10 issues left. It's like this awful countdown.
Right.
Every time it's like, God damn it. Fuck.
Al Ewing has kind of become the king of cliffhangers.
Oh man, he's just doing amazing. Him and Joe Bennett on this freaking book, dude. I mean, because the Thing actually starts talking, 2 pages from the last, but Joe Bennett doesn't reveal who he is totally until that last page. Now, if you're familiar with that character,
you see
figure
his
out
brow, right?
Yeah, you're like, uh-oh, and then the big reveal on that final page.
I don't want anybody
dope.
I don't want anybody else to ever draw the Hulk again.
Oh man, it's crazy good, man. It's crazy good. And I went back and read the Immortal Hulk 0. I read that last night, and the art in that book is obviously good, but it's different, and it was a very stark reminder how much Joe Bennett and the rest of the art team is bringing to this story, and how they're just taking Al Ewing's narrative and just putting it in freaking orbit, man. I mean, this is just a stupid, talented team that makes no sense. I mean, these people sold their soul to the devil or something. Also from Marvel, I read X of Swords, part 19 of 22. This is from the Cable storyline. Jerry Duggan and Phil Noto. This is the latest issue in the X of Swords storyline, so things are heating up. And apparently, starting this coming week, things are going to get really spoilery. So, I've seen some creators that are working on this say, hey, careful if you're online. People are going to start spoiling things. Big stuff happening. Standouts in this issue, as there usually is when he's in any one of these. Mr. Sinister and his sassiness is freaking hilarious in this, and he just jerks a knot in Katie Pride's that just is hilarious. It's just amazing. Then there's a really funny line in here. There's all the council is waiting for Sinister to show up for a meeting, and people are complaining, and Kitty Pryde says Axl Rose would have gone on by now. Yeah,
I thought that was great.
I thought that was pure gold. Pure gold.
Can we back up for a second? Did you say Katie Pride?
Did I say that? Yeah.
Yeah, she's going by Kate, I think.
Is that?
Yeah.
I knew she was going by something else now. Like they keep the running joke is you can't call her Kitty anymore. Is it?
Yeah.
Is she's going by now?
It's Kate.
Okay.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
That's cool.
Or you can call her what's her name? Her
Shadowcat.
Shadowcat, yeah.
Yeah. Number 3, the third thing on my stack is number 25, the Captain America book from Ta-Nehisi Coates, Leonard Kirk, and Matt Milla. Specifically, the reason I'm mentioning this one is actually because there's a second story in the back by Michael Cho and Anthony Falcone. This story is once again a very good narrative and reminder on why he's Captain America and not Captain Government. That's a message that I think people constantly need to be reminded of.
Oh my God!
And
right.
This short little message in the back of this story in the back of this book delivers that message pretty well. So that was a standout that I thought was worth pointing out as it relates to what the character actually is that people forget a lot of times.
I have to point out that Leonard Kirk is a very Star Trek name.
Right.
That dude's parents were definitely Star Trek fans.
Yeah, it seems unlikely that you're incorrect there.
So, respect to Matt, because fun fact, I posted one of those panels from that very story from Captain America 25, the backstory, on our Instagram page early this morning. And I did so because Captain America 25 was the first book I was going to drop on my short stack.
Burn. Ruin that shit.
So samesies. No, I don't think it's a burn at all. It's just that
synergy.
Synergy.
Right. Simpatico, boo.
Synchronicity.
No, since you said what it is, I'm just going to agree with you, man. I think that backup story was gorgeous. I'm inclined to like Michael Cho's art anyway. I think he's a great cover artist. The dude did a shit ton of the covers for Batwoman, and that's where I locked onto him at. And no, I think the message throughout was great. I've been loving the main story though, since you covered the backstory, which was what I was going to talk about. I mean, so I'm not going to pretend like it wasn't, but the main story on this with the with this Daughters of Freedom line that Ta-Nehisi Coates has been dropping, where they take Agent 13, they take this core group of the basically women who are spies in Captain America's life, and they show how for a long time it's been the women who have fought against fascism and haven't gotten nearly the amount of spotlight, but who have done the dirty work. And I think that's true in the civil rights struggle at large. I think it's been brilliant. So if you're not reading Captain America right now, jump on it, because it's incredible work. It started off a little slow in the beginning, but it's really gotten great. I like what Ta-Nehisi Coates is doing with it. So yeah, daps all around. Fist bump, fist bump, fist bump. The second book that I was going to talk about on my short stack is this new book from IDW, who, like you said, Craig just talked about an IDW book. They're doing some really great work. It's called Sea of Sorrows.
Don't talk too much. That's my book of the week. So,
all right, look, see that simpatico line, man. I'm not going to say too much. It's written by Rich Duick. It's drawn and colored by Alex Cormack. Letters by Justin Burke with some color assist by Mark Mullaney. Without saying too much, it's if you like a little history with your horror, or a little horror with your history, and you're into oceanography, or just really, really, really pretty art. And I say pretty in the sense it's not classically pretty. It's rough. It's dark. It's isolated. The book feels claustrophobic. It's really stunning work. But I'm gonna let Big Daddy Craig handle telling y'all about that. And then the last book on my short stack, I'm gonna laugh my ass off and just quit my day job if Matt says, "Hey, don't talk about this because it's my book."
Matt, it's your book, no matter what it is.
Noted. Okay.
It's a book that just came out this week, and it was the book I told folks to go read last week. It's Barbalien Red Planet #1, written by Jeff Lemire with some writing help by Tate Bromble, drawn by the always incredible, always fun to look at Gabriel Hernandez Walta, colored by the great Jordi Belair, and lettered by Aditya Bidikar. So, can I talk about it?
No. Yes, of course you can.
So if you've been following the Black Hammer stuff, you know that Barbalien is essentially an analog for, Martian Manhunter. and in that sense, he also pulls in a lot from like John Carter, Warlord of Mars. There's a little bit of crossover of both of those in this character. But you're getting some backstory here. Like I said, if you've read all of this amazing work, world, or most of it anyway, that Jeff Lemire has built, you know that he was essentially chased off of Mars in some sense for being gay, like their version of gay, which, you know, that begs the question, what does being gay mean in a world where everybody are shapeshifters? But that's a whole different conversation. But he was chased off that planet and came to Earth in the 80s, which, you know, at the end of the 80s, around 1986, was right in the middle of the AIDS crisis, which, you know, let's, you know, out of the frying pan and into the fire with that one. And it's just him trying to figure out how to deal with that world, but also reconcile that his kind of cover in this sense is somebody who's a cop. So what does it mean? How can he reconcile being an officer of the government that is a lot like the people that chased him off of his own planet and that actively inhibits or doesn't care, at least attacks people that are in the same community as him. So it's very timely and very good at showing how the more things change, the more they stay the same, because we see a lot of that going on right now. So I mean, just a taste of that. It's really well written, like you might expect. Honestly, just in all fairness, I was expecting a little bit more of a punch than what the book gave me. But that may just be because I'm too close to the subject matter. I still think it's going to be a fun book. So definitely check that out.
Nice.
Good stuff, man.
I'm excited. Yeah, I'm curious to see where it goes between this and the Colonel Weird miniseries that they're doing with Tyler Crook. Like, there's some just amazing stuff coming out of there. And I should say it's Dark Horse Comics. If you don't know, now you know. So,
if you don't know, now you know.
Has anybody else had like a really ridiculously long week, or is it just me?
Yeah, last week was long. This coming up week's going to be long for a short week. I've got a lot I got to get done, so yeah. Already anticipating that nightmare. So,
well, Craig was I'm not going to lie to you guys. It has been pulling teeth for me to get much read, and so instead of doing just a roundtable book, how do y'all feel about just talking about something I know we've all watched, I know we're all up to date on, and I know we all like?
Sure. Whatever.
Cool with that?
Yeah. I'm cool with that.
So before we get started, and this, again, it's just, I've got finals coming up and everything is fast paced and dumb right now.
Quit making excuses. We just want to talk about this show.
So before we do this, I'm just going to offer a spoiler warning, because that feels like the polite thing to do, right? That's.
Did you say spoiler?
Spoiler?
Oh, okay. I thought you said spoiler.
No, spoiler sounds terrifying. Things with spores bother me. But no, a spoiler warning. So we are going to talk about some stuff that's kind of current in the zeitgeist of pop culture. We're going to tell you what it is, and we're also going to put show notes in the little info section of whatever podcatcher cast thing you're looking at. You can see it's got timestamps. So if we talk about anything, and like I said, up front, going to give you a warning that you have not caught up on or you don't want to know about, just skip ahead a little bit. All right? It's easy. You just got to hit the little button. It just jumps. It's the magic of technology. Sometimes it's wonderful. Sometimes it's terrible. In this case, it will work in your favor. So I think the thing we're going to talk about, and I know Craig is not an expert on this subject matter, so he may be a little lost, but there's this little unknown kind of niche show from this little indie company called Disney Marvel Star Wars, called The Mandalorian. You guys seen this?
I think I watched the first episode.
So I know we talked about the first season way back when, and kind of ran down it. But since things have been so hectic, things have been so busy, and I know we've all watched this, we kind of thought, okay, like let's talk about where we're at with this show and the first at least 4 episodes, which is all that's available right now, I think, and how we've gotten caught up on that, what we're feeling about it. So just it seems like a ridiculously redundant question, but I ask it every time. What did you guys think about this?
Oh, I'm loving this season. I mean, I want to see something change in the next episode, but overall, I've loved this season.
Nice.
Yeah, I like it as well. What do you mean by that? What do you mean by see something change?
I am ready for it not to be the same formula we've had in the first 4 episodes, which is go to planet A, run a mission, go on to the next planet.
I feel. Yeah, I'm glad you said that because I felt the same way.
Yeah. It's become very formulaic this season. Not that that doesn't mean that the episodes are bad in any way, because they're not, but it's become a formula for each episode so far.
But it feels like they've stalled the progression of the story to give these little, creatures of the week feel to it.
Yeah. Well, I think that the story is going to take a major turn next episode, and we'll get to that here in a minute. But yeah, I think the next episode is going to be the big turning point in the story.
My dudes, I think we've been living in each other's brains, and what's funny is we absolutely have not had this conversation off air, like, because I legitimately feel the same way. I've loved it, but I feel like they've been seeding things that are going to happen later on in the episode, and that's a good thing. They've got to do that as some kind of like forecasting what's to come, but they've been backing up the seeding episodes back to back to back, and I need them to deliver something with a little bit more of a punch coming up soon. So,
well, here after we give a breakdown, I'll tell you why the next episode's going to be the one that's going to be different, but we'll get there in a minute.
So we joked about the first episode with Matt, because if you don't know, Matt, there's this little book called Dune that Matt is kind of an acolyte of. He it's a small read. You give it an afternoon. Matt,
yeah, you got a couple of spare hours, you can get through it in no time.
It kind of just goes with the alphabet. A is for
or just watch that movie from the 80s. It gives a pretty good idea of what
there's so many lies being made right now. It's just like a blanket of lies.
I can feel Matt's blood pressure rising over here. So like we joked about this because look, anytime you see a giant sand dragon lizard thing, your brain should it, not for people that I'm sure there are people that it doesn't, but your brain should go to Dune, right? So this first episode and Tremors.
God damn it. See, they got to you, Caleb. They totally got to you. You danced around the word sandworm. You're like, oh, a sand creature, tube thing, dragon. Got you.
It is a dragon in this context.
It is not a dragon.
I just wonder if it's the same type of thing that lives on the asteroid from was it episode 1? Episode 2?
It is not. That thing was much bigger than this.
I mean, look, you see a lot of sandworms in size. Sorry, never mind. Anyway.
Yeah.
In this one, we're getting some more of that same. They are doing. They start off the season with the same kind of lone wolf and cub formula, and I think that gets thrown around a lot. It's that same monster of the week, the traveling journey. Like each episode is part of a broader story, but they all kind of stand on themselves. Where Mando and Yiddle, who I still call him Yiddle, Baby Yoda, whatever you want to call him, the child, he's got Junior in tow because he's the galactic babysitter. They go back to Tatooine. And because Mando is looking for other Mandalorians. He needs to get
negative.
Wait, what?
He's looking for Mandalorians, but he's really looking for Jedi. So he's looking for the Mandalorians to tell him where the Jedi are.
Well, yeah, that's where I was going.
Okay.
The reason he's looking for these other Mandalorians is because he's been tasked with getting this little green slobber monster back to his people being the Jedi, either whatever other species that Yoda is, or people who are Force strong. And so he thinks that the Mandalorians, being the little cult of badasses that they are can help him do that. And we know from season 1 that his people got scattered to the four corners of the galaxy, and he doesn't know. So he lands on this planet because he gets a hot tip. Of course, has to go back and see. Oh, I forget her name, but I love her.
Amy Sudeikis.
Yeah, Amy Sudeikis goes back and sees her and gets a tip to where this city might be. But it's a city that's pretty much been wiped off the map. It's Moss. Help me out, Craig.
Dang it! Why did you ask me the name of the city? Yeah,
it's not Mos
Eisley. Something.
It's Moss something.
Mos Eisley and Mos Esp are the ones from the movies.
Right.
So it's a random city on the southern part of the planet.
Yeah, Moss.
The one
Moss
note I
city.
didn't take, Caleb.
Look, you're my Star Wars trivia boo. I figured you had this. Like, I figured you had a Moss random city tattoo on your back or something by now.
No, I do not.
So it is on his back. You can't see it. That's why I can't think of the name of the town.
He's got like 3 mirrors set up with a hidden map, a la Jailbreak. Yeah. But yeah, so they roll out there, and what they come to find is that the reason this city really isn't on the maps anymore is because it's been taken over by the Mining Guild. And so essentially, after the second Death Star went kablooey, and they all thought they were free, these, you call them terrorists, I don't know what you call them, the miners guilds, they came in and took over the town and became living like ruffians. Well, they were basically mobsters that ran this place. But there was one man, and this is where the Good, Bad, and the Ugly soundtrack should start playing in your brain, who wasn't really having it. He watched this town get ransacked and ran over by these, ne'er-do-wells, for lack of a better word. And so he skedaddles, steals a bucket out of the back of their little floaty truck, because that seems like the right thing to do. And it turns out that bucket was full of these really high-priced crystals. Well, he gets lost in the desert, and, on Tatooine, who are you going to find rolling through the desert in their big, giant cube, but some Jawas. And so he strikes up a deal. He needs some water and some food, and they want these crystals. So he's sitting in their sand crawler, and bartering back and forth. They really, really want these crystals, and he's getting some sustenance. He's basically thanking all the gods that he's in the shade. But he looks over and he sees a really familiar suit of armor, and kind of looks at it a little bit. He's like, no, I want that. And that suit of armor is the suit of armor from the man himself, the myth, the legend, the OG Mandalorian, Boba Fett. Don't know how the job is.
I'm gonna interrupt.
Okay.
Boba Fett is not a Mandalorian. But
okay,
continue on.
No, I'm gonna need you to extrapolate on that shit.
Yeah, the Jango Fett stole Mandalorian armor. He's not actually a Mandalorian, but it is Mandalorian armor.
So Boba Fett's not a Mandalorian.
He is not a Mandalorian.
He's just a poser.
No, I mean, he's a badass.
No, it sounds like a hipster.
Yeah, I mean, he is wearing armor that does not belong to him. Well, I mean, it belongs to him because his dad stole it and he got it when his dad died. But they did not earn it by becoming Mandalorians.
So where's Jango Fett from?
I don't know, but it's not Mandalore.
You just changed my entire perspective.
Yeah, see,
that's why we do this. Yeah,
that's what I'm here for, is to throw out the nuggets of truth.
Where did that information drop at? Like, is that
I don't remember the name of the book it's in, but it's in one of the new canon books.
Okay.
They've actually retconned that, because in the old stuff, not only was Boba Fett a Mandalorian, he was the Mandalore. He was the leader of the Mandalorians. So
I liked that better. Just gonna be real honest.
Nah.
Tough
There's
shit.
reasons. When we get to episode 3 here, you'll find out why he is not the Mandalore. So.
All right. Well, I knew some of the. Okay, yeah, that tracks. I knew some of that history from one of the cartoons. But yeah, so anyway, he looks over there. He sees the armor that was worn by Poser Fett, and he was like, "Yeah, I want that." So he gets it, of course, because they want the crystals, and so I mean, it's badass armor, right? It looks great. It serves a lot of purpose. It's functional. It's made of this what is this?
Beskar.
Yeah, it's made of Beskar. So he puts it on and he goes back to Moss Random City, and he was like, not like he walks into the cantina, and all those mining goons are standing around, and they all kind of look at him funny. He nods sideways and tells the bartender, "Hey, duck and cover. This is going to get ugly." And he proceeds to clean house. I mean, the dude just like takes no prisoners. It's just, I mean, he gets shot once or twice, but that bounces off the Beskar armor, right? So he drops these fools, and they skedaddle as cowards and bullies are wont to do. They jump into their land speeder and they're getting out. They're rolling out. But he is not. Apparently, this guy holds a grudge, and he was kind of an take no prisoners, leave nobody outside attitude, because he brilliantly, and I got so just giddy when I saw this, uses the rocket launcher. And I don't know that we've ever seen the rocket launcher actually utilized outside of, I guess, headcanon books, or maybe in one of the animated series, but not in the live action, right?
Yeah, not in the live action. We haven't seen it.
No,
and the reason this guy's so badass, of course, is because it's Raylan Givens from Justified.
Yep. Pulling up IMDb as I said that. It was
Timothy Olyphant. Yeah.
It's so cool seeing these big names, these kind of people who have these great cult followings, dropped into these episodes and kind of canonized in the Star Wars lore. I should say in the beginning of this episode, there was an alien who Mando went to get some information from. I say alien, I don't know what kind of creature he was, because everybody's an alien, right? But it's John Leguizamo in the makeup. And like, you don't know that unless you recognize his voice, or you sit through the credits and you see that. Like, I love that in each one of these things, they're taking all of these actors, all of these names who are in other shows unrelated to Star Wars, really unrelated to like nerd culture, quote unquote, at least sci-fi nerd culture, and they're dropping them in there and they're making them canon. Like, that's got to be a dream come true, because I mean, everybody loves Star Wars, right? Like, all of these actors, it doesn't matter if you're doing serious British comedy or whatever, everybody loves Star Wars. So I
think it's funny when people are on there that, well, great example, last season, Bill Burr, the comedian Bill Burr, was in. He has no idea what a Star War is. So I just thought it was hilarious that he ended up in one of the episodes.
See, that surprises me, because I would take Bill Burr as somebody who would like it. Like, he would. I didn't know that. I didn't know he wasn't a fan, but I would see Bill Burr as somebody who's at least cognizant or conscious of what it is.
Negative.
Really? Okay.
Yeah.
Anyway, back to the story at hand. Bill Burrisms aside, which kind of still blows my mind. That's crazy. Cray. So he kind of becomes the sheriff or the warden of this. Warden's a bad example.
Marshal.
Bad word. Marshal. He becomes the marshal of this town, and is the lawmaker. So he shows up. I should say Mando shows up, sees homeboy wearing Beskar armor, and when Timmy Oliphant takes his helmet off, he's like, "Oh, like, that mistake number one. You're not a Mandalorian. You need to give me this armor before or I'm gonna kill you, and I might kill you anyway." And they kind of have their little, tumbleweeds blowing across the road moment, where they're getting ready to duel. But at that moment, the ground starts shaking, right? Like, everything starts rumbling. Something's not right, and just right down the street, all the sand just kind of starts rippling. It kind of starts waving around. And you can tell something's like burrowing underneath them, going down the street. And out in the distance, like a good football field away from the town, or whatever the equivalent of football is in Star Wars world. Out there is a poor little lonely bantha, sadly tied to a post for unknown reasons, way out of town, because it doesn't look like there's a water bucket nearby. I guess this guy was just being like punished, or he was in timeout. But out of nowhere, this giant crate dragon, Sandworm, thing launches into the air and just devours this bantha in one big gulp. And that should tell you the size of this thing. So, the banthas are what? They're the size of like a mid-sized elephant. Not a jumbo elephant, but not a baby elephant. And just swallows this thing, and then you don't see it again. And so the marshal's just like, you know what? I think we can make a deal. And they do. And in doing so, they have to team up with what has become the scourge of Tatooine and definitely the scourge of this town, but the Sand People. They have to make a pact and work together because apparently this crate dragon's been terrorizing the Sand People as well. And so they do. And, that episode ends with a bang. And as you might imagine, they are successful.
Yes, they are successful. And and then you end with the cameo at the end which is a very haggard looking Boba Fett watching as Mando leaves with his armor.
Uh-huh. So and it's what is that actor's name? IMDb keeps
Tamura Morrison. It's the same guy that played the clones and played Jango Fett in the prequels.
Yep. And so that begs the question, because you never know.
And Aquaman's dad.
He did play Aquaman's dad. That's a good. I forgot about that. Which so you're kind of locking in on that is the original Boba Fett, right?
Yeah, that's Boba Fett. If he were one of the clones, he would be much older because the clones had the aging serum.
Mm-hmm.
And he's also pretty scarred up from his trip down the Sarlacc pit.
Okay, that makes sense.
Yeah.
See, I keep waiting for because I know the writers of the show, they want people to want that to be Boba Fett. So I keep waiting for like the other shoe to drop and let us know that maybe it's not or something.
I mean, the rumor is that Morrison's going to be back this season to play Rex, one of the clones.
Mm-hmm.
So that's a possibility as well. But that is not Rex. He's too young in that scene to be anybody other than Boba Fett.
Wouldn't Rex be super old by this?
Yeah. You see Rex in Return of the Jedi. At the end of Return of the Jedi, he's an old man with a beard.
Mm-hmm.
So he would be, you're talking about another 9 year or another 5 years beyond that at this point with their aging serum.
Yeah.
So
yeah. So just in the brackets of this episode alone, like, how did you guys feel about this being a kickoff to season 2?
Craig, would you like to go first?
Yeah, I loved it. I thought it had a lot of fun Easter eggs in it. I love seeing Timothy Oliphant in this, where he basically, as I said, plays Raylan Givens from Justified. And then I enjoyed the Monster of the Week stuff, and then of course the cameo at the end. So, Matt.
So I will start off by saying I did not dislike this episode, but I will be transparent and say that whenever Raylan Givens and Mando walk out into the thoroughfare, I audibly said, "No, you didn't, you motherfuckers." Whenever the Sandworm showed up. Because I had been warned that that they had, quote, ripped off Dune for this episode. I was not prepared for how blatant it was going to be, and that the entire episode was based around a Frank Herbert's Dune ripoff. So I was a little bitter, and I cussed out loud a lot, but it did not,
deter from your enjoyment.
It did not deter from my enjoyment. I'm like, well, maybe this will make more people become aware of Dune, and there'll be some residual positivity. And yeah,
it was an homage to Dune.
But see, here's what's going to happen. Here's what's going to happen in the future. is people are going to watch the new Dune movie when it does come out next year and be like, hey, that's like that thing in The Mandalorian. And then I'll have kittens.
So
that's hilarious.
That begs the question, right? Where's the line between quote unquote ripoff and quote unquote homage? Because and I struggle with this. And I asked that question because I don't know the answer. I mean, we've chatted about this before. I don't like things that are derivative, but I do like things that wear their influences on their sleeves. And I don't know where the fine line is on that. I don't know how art is subjective. I don't know what subjective line I draw for that. Something tells me in my brain that it's one or the other, and I really don't know how I make that decision. Do you guys have any, like, what is your thoughts on, like, the difference?
I mean, I'm with you. My brain just kind of flips that switch on its own, whether I'm annoyed or not.
Yeah, we could go on and on about that subject. That's for sure.
Yeah, I don't know what the magic is there that says this one is a ripoff and this one's not. I mean, it's very obvious that this episode, I was joking when I said homage. It's a ripoff of Dune. There's no doubt about it. But is it done in a trying to steal your property way, or is it done in a respectful way?
I mean, George Lucas always said that, Star Wars was an homage to the sci-fi, the Westerns, and, all the other stuff, the samurai stories that he likes. So, I mean, you could use that. I mean, you could say that. And, and as a Dune enthusiast, the reason I don't get bitter about it is because literally when Star Wars came out, Frank Herbert was fine with it. People were telling Frank Herbert to actually sue George Lucas, and he was just like, meh. I mean, he's, so yeah. I can't get my dander up if the actual creator of the work is, frankly indifferent.
That's true.
There you go.
I mean, and yeah, I mean, I think if you were going to get mad at something, not even just Star Wars, but something in sci-fi ripping off Frank Herbert's Dune, you would just stay mad forever and die mad and then be in the mad afterlife. Because I mean, it's so, Frank Herbert's Dune is so foundational to, space, anything that is quote unquote science fiction. I mean, you see it throughout. It's not even just sci-fi. I mean, like, I've heard Doctor Who fans talk about which I haven't seen Doctor Who. Again, Craig is, I think, the resident Whovian. But there's been people talk about the parallels from Doctor Who and that. I mean, Star Trek. There's Frank Herbert's Dune all up in Star Trek. Star
I mean, quite frankly, it's something that's rampant throughout fantasy and science fiction anyways. Yeah. I mean, you can't read a fantasy book that's not in some form derivative of the Lord of the Rings.
Yeah. Well, and the work I think it makes a difference that the Frank Herbert's Dune, it was enormously successful. It's not like this is a ripoff of a small independent book that never really made any money, and the creator, it's not that kind of situation. So
that's right.
Saying you're ripping off something that was enormously successful, I don't know. It's hard to get your dander up about something like that. Versus, I'll give you the example of the way I felt when I watched the 2000 AD documentary, 2000 AD being the British comic, and they talk about how the movie RoboCop blatantly ripped off Judge Dredd. Now that sucks because, we're talking about a small, publication whose artists are not making a lot of money. In fact, they're making very little. And this major motion picture comes out that makes millions of dollars, and no homage, no money was given to the creators of which that came from. That's an example of a ripoff that bothers me versus, Star Wars versus Dune.
There you have it.
Yeah.
From the resident Dune fan.
Well, and we're talking about, in the idea of talking about these things as foundational to the genre. I mean, I'm trying to. You've got Dune, like Craig said. You have Lord of the Rings as being kind of this foundational moment, and then you've got, and I'm trying to decide which one I would consider first. But you've got, either Robert E. Howard or Edgar Rice Burroughs, which are also people who built off of Edgar Allan Poe, as being kind of the tonal heartbeat.
I mean, there's no new stories.
Yeah,
it's just the telling of the stories.
Well, and again, that's where I'm trying to figure out for my own personal edification what the line between homage and ripoff is, which is it's like I said, that's an internally the eternally internal dialogue for I think everybody who likes these things, and I don't think that there's an actual answer to it. I'm just kind of curious. I don't know, so I just felt like saying Robert E. Howard just because this conversation needed more Conan, just to be real honest. But yeah, so that ends in a pretty great way. They get a nice little pack of meat, and they go back to Mos Eisley, where he gets back in his Razor Crest and gets ready to blast off of space. But something, because leading into the next episode, something kind of happens, and he's talking to the proprietor of that shop, who Amy Sedarkis, or is that how you say her name?
Yeah, that's how I say her name.
Okay, yeah. Talking to her, and she's just like, well, hey, I need you to do me a favor. Like, you're looking for these Mandalorians because you're looking for the Jedi. I got somebody who can take you there, who can at least get you some help. There's a catch to it, though. She needs to get dropped off on another planet. And he's just like, I'm not a taxi cab. Are you sure this is legit? And she's like, oh yeah, totally. I trust this person with my life. Met him like 5 minutes ago, but trust him with my life. And out of the little corner behind the building, there comes this little, she's labeled as Frog Lady.
Yes, she is a frog lady.
I maintain that she's at least like a quarter gecko. So she comes shuffling around with this little tube. And in this tube, there are her eggs. And the reason she needs to get off this planet is that she needs to go to where her husband is, who is hanging out on a primarily Mon Calamari world, a very amphibian-friendly planet, who is kind of immigrated there and to set up a life and is ready for them to join us so they can make little frog gecko babies out of these eggs. And so she jumps on the ship and away they go, which leads us into episode 2. And I'm gonna let Craig talk about this one.
Yeah, so he agrees to take the passenger frog lady. And the one thing here is that they can't travel at light speed because it will damage her eggs. Now, of course, the other catch is with them traveling at sublight speeds. Is the child going to eat all of her eggs before they get there? Because that's a real thing in this episode. It pissed off a lot of people, but we'll get to that later. Along the way, they're confronted by some New Republic ships that have some questions for Mando and his shady bounty hunter practices. And some of these questions he would rather not answer. So he evades the New Republic by taking refuge on an icy planet. And after he lands on what appears to be a stable section of ice, we soon find out that it cannot support the weight of the Razor Crest, and the ship falls into a cave below, taking a lot of damage. They are soon confronted by a nest of spider creatures that attack them and damage the Razor Crest even more, actually breaking the, what would you call it, the cockpit canopy, making it less than worthy to travel in space. And the New Republic ships show up and actually help them take out the spiders, and it decides to let the Mando go because they found out that he had helped a friend of theirs in the past. And however, they leave the Mando and the child and Frog Lady all but stranded on this planet to try and figure out their way off the planet. Mando's able to repair the ship enough that they can get out of there and find their way on to the next deal. So that's kind of the rough overview of this episode. The spider creatures were a lot of fun, but again, it felt very much like I said, it's just the, fight the creature of the week type thing and go on. There's some great moments. You can argue whether the child eating the eggs is, pertinent or not. She never once said it was the last of their species, so this isn't genocide as some people want to talk about. It's an egg. It's a yeah. People were actually mad saying that the child was committing genocide. So yeah, that's the internet in 2020. No, the child was not committing genocide. He was eating eggs just as you do every Saturday morning when you fry up some eggs and cook them and eat them. He just ate them raw. So, and obviously she wasn't mad about it. She knew how many eggs she had, and she never got upset by it. So if she's not upset, we probably shouldn't be upset.
I just like the if we've learned nothing else from this show, it is that tiny Yoda creature is 1000% a predator.
Oh my gosh!
Like the dude.
Genocide.
It makes you wonder what Yoda was actually feeding Luke on Dagobah,
right?
When he made that chili, what was in that damn chili? Because Yoda was obviously an apex predator.
Well, and plus he's a kid, right? Like he's a baby. Like I saw the arguments online. I pretty much stayed out of it because I
ignored them.
Have the brain capacity, and I genuinely don't care for that fight, whatever that fight may be. But there were people like, no, he's 50 years old. He uses the Force like he's totally like the dude's a baby. Like the dude is like children will put anything and everything in their mouths,
especially if they're hungry.
Yeah, even kids who are preschool age or kindergarten age that like have the ability to communicate, and which is not even where this kid's at, but they have the ability, they have some cognitive understanding. They are becoming people at that age. They will still do shit that if they did it as an adult, we might side eye it, like but that's not where
I can't believe we're talking about this for this long, actually.
Right. Yeah, this episode had that whole feel of Carl, stay in the house, get back to the house from Walking Dead. So
like this felt more of a filler episode. But the cool thing about this episode is that we totally got some, because Baby Yoda's a predator, we got to get some alien action too. And again, it's some more of that. What is an homage and what is a ripoff? Because you got to see face huggers, Star Wars face huggers.
No, that happens in the next episode.
Oh, is that episode 3? Shit.
Yeah, that's okay. It's because it's the same characters,
right?
It's the same, the Frog Woman and all of that. So,
well, let's get into that. I mean, that was Mo better.
Yeah. So, episode 2 is a little bit, like you said, a filler episode. They are on their way. They run into some problems. They have to fix the ship, and it leads all. I mean, it's all building, right? So it's hard to say whether it's filler or not, but there's not a lot there to advance the story, in my opinion. But it doesn't mean it's a bad episode. It's just if you were watching X-Files, you would call it a standalone episode, right?
Yeah.
You want me to bust down episode 3?
Yeah, you're doing a great job. Go for it, bro.
Okay. So after fixing the ship, they head on to the water moon of Trask, which has become a safe haven, as Caleb said, for the Mon Calamaris and the Quarren, who used to share the world of Mon Cal before the Empire forced them into hiding because of their shipbuilding capabilities. After they deliver Frog Woman to Frog Husband, which, did you guys happen to watch this with subtitles on?
Yes.
Did you? So when she's hollering for her husband, you have one of the best subtitle ever. It says, Frogman yells in frog. It's hilarious. It's great. So Mando soon learns of the Mandalorians on the planet, and he takes passage from some very shady Quarren who are in fact trying to get their hands on his Beskar armor. He is rescued by 3 Mandalorians led by none other than Bo-Katan, the true leader of the Mandalorians. What's really great about this is that Bo-Katan is played by Katie Sackhoff, which some of you will remember from Battlestar Galactica, but she also voiced Bo-Katan on the cartoon Rebels, so it's the same person playing her.
Starbuck, baby.
Yeah, and during this, we find out that Mando is actually a part of a zealot group of Mandalorians called the Children of the Watch. Now, what I believe is that Mando did not know that the group he was in was a zealot group, but, you know, he's now learning that it's okay to take off your helmet and things of this nature. And, you know, is Children of the Watch in some way a reference to the Death Watch, which was a group of zealot Mandalorians that didn't like the way the Mandalorians were being ran when Bo-Katan was in charge.
Mm-hmm.
We find out that Bo-Katan is trying to stop an Imperial ship from leaving planet with a load of weapons that she wants to use to help you reunite the Mandalorians and retake Mandalore. And we also find out that she is in pursuit of the Darksaber, which is the weapon that the Mandalorian leader wields, but as we know from the end of last season, is in the possession of Moff Gideon. In exchange for Mando's help, Bo-Katan tells him she knows where there's a Jedi, and she'll let him know if he'll help her get the weapons back. After recapturing the weapons, she, of course, tells Mando that she knows where Ahsoka Tano is and tells her the planet that they can get to drop off the child, and, you know, wants him to come back and help her retake Mandalore, which he's not all about at this point, but I think at some point in the future will be. So this episode had a lot in it. As far as the overall story, it's given Mando a place to go, and a name of a person to actually search out.
Mm-hmm.
And you get more information on what happened to the Mandalorians. You get more information about the culture of the Mandalorians, and you get, baby Yoda getting eaten by, a sea creature of some sort, but then the Mandalorians save them, of course.
You also get it canonized that the Mon Calamari wear JCPenney's knit sweaters.
Yes,
I think that's an important note. Also, bone of contention, you fuckers, I was right. Episode 2 is where you get the face huggers, because that's the snow spiders, and they go full Ridley Scott, where they hatch out of these little eggs, just like the face huggers did.
Yeah, but they don't hug faces.
Episode 3 is where the squid jumps out of the soup onto Baby Yoda's face. So that's what I thought you were talking about.
No, I was talking about the full like alien egg emergence giant.
But they don't hug faces though.
You don't know that. You just know that
you're
they were
incorrect.
Unsuccessful at hugging faces.
No, I was watching for face hugging. There was none.
No, that's right. I agree.
Stop.
They were just what we're not successful. Lack of success.
Yeah, the face hugging happened in episode 3 when he finally gets the child some food at the local inn, tavern, whatever you want to call it, and it's porridge with live squid living in it.
So yeah, more Ridley Scott. Lots of Ridley Scott.
I mean,
all up in the first half of season 2.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So that episode was the most important at this point, in my opinion, as to what's going on in this season. And, we got Ahsoka Tano mentioned.
That was the big thing for me. And even Roger, so my better half is not a Star, I'm not nearly the Star Wars person that you are, Craig, but Raj is not. He's watched all the Star Wars movies, but he doesn't keep up with canon. He hasn't seen Rebels or what's
Clone
the
Wars.
Other one? Clone Wars. Yeah,
Clone Wars.
He hasn't seen either one of those, but he picked up on that. He's like, what's an Ahsoka Tano? Like that's a big moment, and that's why I explained a little bit of him. And I know that not too long ago they were announcing that they had cast Rosario Dawson to be Ahsoka Tano. Like that was at least running around the rumor mill. So you think that's going to be the character? Is she doing that character in Mandalorian, or is she going to be in one of the films?
No, she's going to be in Mandalorian.
Okay.
And next episode 5, is actually directed by Dave Filoni, who created the character Ahsoka. So I don't believe that they're going to allow anyone else to bring Ahsoka into live action other than the guy that created her. You know, he has said all along that this is his baby, you know, for lack of a better word.
Yeah.
So
Disney Corporation will straighten him out on that.
Yeah, but you know, he's said all along, even after her voice was heard in Rise of Skywalker, one of the voices was hers that was talking to Rey at the end. So people assumed she was dead, and Dave Filoni said Ahsoka's not dead till I say she's dead. So I believe that episode 5 is when we will see Ahsoka. Now, you know, what level, what happens at that point, I don't know. Is the child going to go off with Ahsoka? You know, that all remains to be seen.
I'm excited. I'm ready for it.
Yeah.
Episode 4, I don't know about you guys. I still felt like this was more, not, you know, filler. For lack of a better word, again,
he had to get his ship fixed, and while the ship was getting fixed, you know, shit happened.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Also,
spoilers.
I don't like how mean they're being to the Razor Crest, because the Razor Crest is an awesome ship, and I wish they'd stop.
And it's apparently fixed now. So
now I don't want to jump in line. Matt, do you want to talk about episode 4?
The standout for me for episode 4 was a great chase scene. Yeah, man, I loved that chase scene. That was my favorite moment so far in the series. Sound, and I just once again made me really appreciate my surround sound system, because that looked and sounded great on surround sound. And good job, Carl Weathers. He directed that episode.
Yeah,
it was great. Other than the one, you know, we have a new character. What's it, Admiral Jason Blue Jeans? They've actually given him a name on IMDb. So, yeah. For those of you not getting the reference, there was a I guess you'd say a human in blue jeans standing behind a wall with half of his body sticking out. It wasn't caught in post-production and addressed. So, yeah. Kind of like the cup of Starbucks in Game of Thrones, except this was a half of a human.
I was literally joking with our friend Mario this morning that I need to write a story. I need to go like compile all the times in like film history, or a lot of the times in film history where this has kind of famously happened, and write a story about how it's the same person who's doing this through, you know, leaving a Starbucks cups at in Game of Thrones, you know, just all throughout all these films, and create a world and a life of who's low key doing this.
I was joking with the guys from Comic Book Bears this morning, and talking about how if I were that dude, I would go on and have a life on the convention circuit.
Oh, 100%.
Signing, you know, my half of my body forever at $35 a pop.
Oh no, and could do it. Like, could absolutely do. If the folks who play like nameless Stormtrooper X in whatever place way back in the back can do that, then this guy can definitely like pay for his kids' college.
Yep. So no, it was a good episode. Like Matt said, it had the chase scene was just absolutely amazing.
Yeah, I really dug that.
It was cool.
Oh, and don't forget blue Oreo space cookies.
Yeah.
Using
the Force to steal snacks.
You cannot convince me that the child's not at least part dark side at this point.
Oh, my man, just
trying to commit genocide and stealing kids' snacks, and
he orders 66 those cookies like a motherfucker.
Well, and then the best part was, at the end, they're trying to escape, and he throws up, and Mando says, "Yeah, I'm having some onboard malfunctions right now."
That was pretty good. Yeah.
So my two favorite scenes throughout this season have been when Frog Lady is screaming as they are crashing, because it's hilarious no matter how many times, because she just lets out this blood curdling freak out scream, and it's literally the only thing she says without a translator, that you just know what's going through her brain. It's amazing. And then when Baby Yoda is like throwing his hands in the air as they are doing loop-de-loos to fight the TIE fighters, and he's just like, wee.
My favorite moment is Frogman yells and frog.
Somebody had fun. Right? So. But no, all in all, this has been fun so far. It's a show that the production quality is really good. And I should say it was cool seeing Cara Dune again. I like that character, even if the human being who plays that character is kind of a piece of shit outside in the real world. Still a cool character. But it's fun seeing her. I like that whole world. Although I do say they were a little fast and loose with the concept of indentured servitude in episode 4. And I realize they're on the outer rim. But they were a little casual with the slavery that was taking place there. That was it was kind of like, okay.
Dude owed him money and he was working it off.
Yeah.
Hell, he got 100 years taken off of it. 120 years in that episode alone. He'll probably be done in a week.
I think he's got like 150 left. I think they said he had 300 something. But no, it's been fun. Like you said, I hope episode 5 they bring some heavy to it, because
I think it's going to happen.
Yeah, I need them to stop like planting plot points and actually get on with it.
So this season has felt more so than last season, more like a Western show that every week has a different story. Thinking back to some of the old Westerns like Bonanza and things like that, where, every week kind of a new bad guy rides into town and they have to take care of it. That to me is what this season has felt like. That's not to say it's bad at all, because it's been a lot of fun. But the overall story has only been kind of advancing in the background, in my opinion.
Yeah. Agreed. Totally.
Now, I will say at the end of the 4th episode, you do finally get to see Giancarlo's character again, who is Moff. What's his name? All of them are Moffs. It's weird. But he's
Moff Gus.
Yeah, Moff Gus. He's walking down a hallway, and you see it's really at least on my television it was dark, so you didn't get to see what exactly there were, but I think it's the Death Troopers.
Yeah, it's Dark Troopers / Death Troopers, which were in I forget which game it was, one of the old video games. They were actually androids. They were droids.
Mm-hmm.
So, this is the Empire going back to droids.
Okay.
Possibly. So
yeah, our friend, noted publisher, writer, Brian Stewart had an interesting kind of theory on this. And I don't think he was super excited about it. Or maybe he was super excited about it. I'm not sure. But he thinks that this is going to give us some of the intermediate context of how Palpatine like garnered his people and like low-key started up the Sith Empire on the outer edges.
What he was talking about was you had the doctor from the first season that was doing experiments on the child.
Mm-hmm.
He was in this episode and he was talking about how they had used up all the blood and they called it M count, which of course meant midichlorian count.
Right.
And how the child had a higher midichlorian count than any they'd ever encountered before. And they were trying to either clone and make Force users, or they were trying to take, it wasn't clear to me whether they were trying to take, humans or people that already existed that weren't clones and trying to put midichlorians into them, and it wasn't working.
Yeah.
And so I would say it's definitely a precursor to the Emperor's game going on. Whether it's, connected or not is, to be seen at this point.
Yeah, like I said, I'm ready for them to connect them. I'm tired of the. I say I'm tired. They're all great episodes, but the important stuff is coming in little bitty blips at the end of each episode, and I need them to flesh those out. It's still a great ride. Like I got no issue.
It's Favreau and Filoni.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm going to hold on that they're working towards something big, which again I think is coming this Friday.
Yeah.
But for me, just even seeing Ahsoka is a huge deal.
How many you got? You just still one Ahsoka tattoo?
Just the one, yeah.
Just the one, yeah. Just the one.
Yeah, just the one.
Casual fan.
Two Darth Vader tattoos, but everybody else just one.
You've got some pretty great commissions of Ahsoka done, don't you?
I actually have one from Ken Lashley.
Yeah.
And that's actually the only one I have.
Oh, okay. I thought you had a couple of them. That's my bad.
No. I should start getting more Ahsoka commissions, but no, at this point I just have the one from Ken Lashley.
Nice. Good artist to have.
Yeah.
I'm looking at a hat you gave me. That's a Ken Lashley hat. So
yeah.
Well, anyway, that's kind of our Star Wars wrap up. I am curious. You always run the risk of spoiler territory when you put this stuff on the internet, and as far as ruining something for somebody else. But I would love to know what our listeners, what folks at home who are listening to this, how they're feeling about it. We've got folks like our buddy Flippa, who is just like he's loving it, diehard.
Yeah.
Like all the complaints that we would have, he would scoff at us and wag his finger. And so, but he's absolutely enjoying this. And so I may create like a thread on our group.
Awesome.
For folks to talk about.
Yeah. I mean, again, it's just, it's a different vibe than last season, but I'm okay with it.
Yeah. I mean, sure. Like if it was the same vibe every season, it would get stale.
Yeah.
So, I like where they're going with it, and I love the tone. I've got no issue with that whatsoever. It's just super fun.
Yeah. The question just becomes: is the child staying with them or not?
I want little tiny baby Yoda sized Mando Beskar armor.
I kind of feel the same way.
That's really like I want that in my soul. So, all right, folks can go watch that on their own time.
I would say that the most unrealistic part of this season, before we wrap this up, is how easy it is for this dude to find a babysitter.
I saw
that. It is not that easy to find a babysitter. I don't care how cute your kid is.
Because he's got like dude's had a kid for 5 minutes and he's got like babysitters stashed on planets
all over the galaxy.
He's just got like folks hanging on and waiting on him. Amy Sedaris is like looking at her clock like, come on, dude.
Yeah, when are you gonna come back so I can? Yeah.
Well, all right. Well, hopefully folks are enjoying that as much as we are. Maybe they're enjoying it more. I hope so. Needs to be more enjoyment in the world. But right now, I would like to enjoy knowing what y'all have read this week.
Who wants to go?
You want to
go? Sure, I'll go since we already kind of talked about my book. Sea of Sorrows #1 by IDW. It's written by Rich. Did you say it Duke? Because that's kind of the way I said it. Rich Duke.
That's the way I pronounce it. It's Douek.
Yeah.
So, it seems like that. Well, I'm not sure.
Yeah, and I'm not either. Art in colors by Alex Cormack with a color assistant, Mark Mullaney, and letters by Justin Birch. So, as Caleb said, this is kind of a scavenger horror book set in the year 1926 off the coast of Newfoundland. How do you say that? Newfoundland? Is that how you say it?
I think so.
Yeah. Some scavengers are searching for the remnants of a German U-boat, which is rumored to be loaded with gold bullion. The crew waits impatiently as Nick Scholl searches the bottom of the Atlantic Ocean in his old-timey scuba gear. It kind of reminds me of the scuba gear. It kind of reminds me of the, in the Scooby-Doo cartoon, how they always wore like the crazy scuba gear with the hose hooked up to the boat and laid down and all of that. Yeah.
The old school dumbbell system that you also see a lot of people
which it would be timely for this era. So, it makes sense. And while he's down there walking around at the bottom of the ocean, he narrowly avoids a giant shark as he finds the submarine. And after searching through the wreckage, he finally finds the cargo hold and is startled by what appears to be a mermaid. And as the mermaid leaves, he writes it off as a lack of air quality and his mind playing tricks on him. Then back on deck, you have some of the crew starting to plan an eventual coup so they can keep more of the gold for themselves. Of course, assuming that Nick even finds any gold. And just about that time, Nick is brought back up to the surface where he presents the crew with a shiny gold bar. The crew starts to celebrate their soon-to-be richness as Nick wanders off alone and is confronted. He tells a story from when he was in the Great War or World War One, and the U-boat he was on had an accident and began to sink, and a handful of crew made it to the deck. And as he said, and that was when our real troubles began. And we end with a splash page of a mermaid siren singing to the U-boat survivors. And that mermaid looks an awful lot like the mermaid he saw in the wreckage. So as a first issue, I'll say the story is very good, and I would recommend it on the story alone. But as Caleb alluded to earlier, man, the art on this book is what absolutely drew me in and didn't let me go.
Mm-hmm.
From the very first splash page with the shark to the last page with the beautiful mermaid siren on it, I would compare this work to Kelly Williams, if you're familiar with his work. It's very much in that same vein.
Yep.
Just very the colors, the lines, the details. It feels claustrophobic when it should, but when it shouldn't, it doesn't. So the guy just does a great job presenting this book in the art.
Yeah, I feel like if you had to put a moniker on it, I didn't see the Kelly Williams part of it until you said that, but now that I'm like you said that, I can absolutely see it. But it's like if Kelly and Jason Sean Alexander had a baby, and that baby grew up to do art on a book, it would be this. So if you're reading Philadelphia, or if you've seen Jason Sean Alexander Spawn stuff, it's got a lot of that roughness and a lot of that obliqueness to it.
Well, what I really loved is, sometimes in these books, when humans are drawn, they're drawn very cartoony. Mm-hmm. These weren't. These were drawn very detailed, almost realistic style humans, with a lot of facial expressions that, of course, emoted what was going on in the story. And his monsters are just freaking amazing. I can't wait to see what we get throughout this book from just the art standpoint. The story a bit reminds me when we did the review for our buddies Dalton and Wells on their book. There was the mermaid story in there.
I had very similar thoughts about that. Yep.
Yeah, it reminds me a bit of that story. But yeah, it's a good. I'm really looking forward to where this book's going.
No, samesies. And this book took me by surprise because I really didn't know what to expect from it. I hadn't, I'd read the solicitation in passing. Like once I read it, I remembered reading the solicitation, but I was not. I don't know. Like I just kind of didn't really know what was coming through this book, and then when it hit, it hit.
Yeah. I mean, like I said, the story is there, and when it's backed up by great art, it's hard to pass up. If you like, water adventure monster stories, this is the book for you.
Well, but it is. But the thing is, and where the great writing comes in at is when you talk about monster stories. A lot of times the stories they're very loud, they're very busy. Like the writing is very kinetic, where it's screaming off the page. Like it's sorry, my dog is shaking everywhere. They're very energetic stories. This story is claustrophobic. This story is quiet. It's
building tension.
Yeah. It every page it's just pulling a little thread, and it's not like this isn't the Michael Bay. This is it's got a
more of
quietude.
in the Thing,
right? Yeah, very much.
Yeah, kind of a tension building. It's going to be bad, but you don't know how bad.
Well, and oftentimes when a book uses this much black in the work, like everything is way too dark, and I mean I'm talking about physically speaking, but this book uses black really well. Like I didn't feel like anything was being washed out by the lack of color, or about how inky everything was, and I think it plays up, like the writing in the story plays that up. You really can't see more than 5 panels in front of this book, just like you couldn't see.
He's at the bottom of the Atlantic Ocean for a good portion of the story, so you wouldn't expect to see very far in front of you other than the light that's projecting from his helmet. So it's done realistically.
Well, and I'm saying, what I'm talking about though is the connection to that in the actual storytelling is he does a really good job of putting his foot on the brake with what he shows you is about to happen, and that's where I'm saying that quietude, that silent pulling of that single thread of the story, whereas a lot of monster stories and a lot of exploration stories are very vibrant and very big. He's taken the opposite, and it works so well, and that takes a heavy amount of talent, and like the man knows his craft. Also,
I think it takes a lot of talent when you're talking about in a comic book. You could probably tie this to a lot of different movies if you wanted to, as far as that kind of tension and claustrophobia. Alien would be a good one to tie it to, since we've been on the Ridley Scott thing. But yeah, it's got that vibe for sure.
Also, I like seeing, and you mentioned this, the realism of characters. Sometimes in books, no matter what, people are just kind of going on model, and they like everybody's. They're not necessarily quote unquote attractive or pretty, but you certainly, unless they're a terrible person or a villain, they're not drawn ugly. But like the people in this book they have flaws. Like one of the women who are on the book has got a jacked up grill. Like her teeth are like she could open cans with them. But I'm just not trying to be
jacked up grill.
I mean she does, but it's on purpose. And you see that through all the characters. Like these are not, even if they're not quote unquote bad guys, they are hardened people. They are grisly.
Well, these are people that have spent their lives on ships, scavenging the bottom of the ocean, looking for gold. And when they're not doing that, they're living in bars and cantinas.
No, dude, I love that you picked this book for your book of the week, because I'm all in on this book.
Yep, me too.
About it.
Pick it up, enjoy it, guys. Have
you read this, Matt?
No, I haven't. I did see it on the shelf. Almost picked it up, but for whatever reason, I just passed it by. Had no justification for that.
Oh, you gotta go back and see if they got a copy. If not, let me know, and I'll Clorox wipe mine down and send it to you.
Word. Okay.
Because I think you will really dig it. Plus, I mean, and we've kind of been. No, I don't want to spoil that. The design of the merfolk is titillating. So,
just my favorite kind of hating.
Right. I hear some folks are into that kind of thing. Speaking of folks, things that folks are into, what'd you read this week, brother?
I went and dug up an old book. Actually, I read the first issue of the first appearance of the DC Comics character Hitman, created by Garth Ennis and John McCrae. This character was his debut was in the Demon Annual #2. So this is something that Craig will never read, but it's very good.
That's not. I read old school annuals because they actually fit into the story. It's the new stuff that. Yeah, there you go.
So old school. What year does old school end and new school begin?
Probably
see what I did there, Caleb?
Bronze Age.
Okay, well,
versus
you're not
modern.
read this one. You're not going to read this one then.
Why is it modern?
Yeah, this is following modern
well,
era.
It's Garth Ennis, so.
Yeah.
Oh, that's true. Yeah. My bad.
So, to continue on this great story that Craig will ignore, debuted in the early 90s. The story is, of course, Garth Ennis. Everything I've read of him, when he happens to, and he didn't do a bunch of this, but he wrote just a few, the Demon Etrigan stories. He writes that character really well. Of course, the character traditionally speaks in rhyme, and Garth Ennis seems to have a talent for writing dialogue in rhyme. It's great. It doesn't feel forced or shoehorned. It feels very natural to the conversation as much as it can when you're speaking in rhime, that is.
I mean, it's not just rhyme. Like I've read this and seen this, but he holds the iambic pentameter, that goes beyond rhyme. I mean, that's what makes Shakespearean language stand out, is that iambic pentameter, and he holds it with Etrigan.
Yeah, it does. Oh, it does such a great job. So, but the story is about Etrigan, or Etrigan, however you choose to pronounce it. He's chasing a few demons through Gotham City, and in doing so, there's one demon in particular out in the world who is breaking into an apartment of a mobster, and coincidentally, across the street from this building is a hitman who's looking to assassinate this mobster. Once this hitman gets into his apartment, turns the lights on, gets a visual. So this hitman sees this demon attack this monster, and the monster, they basically, as far as you can tell, they seem to be sucking the spinal fluid out of their victims. It's actually pretty gruesome for a DC book, especially in the early 90s. But anyhow, in doing so, he witnesses this. The demon sees him witnessing it, attacks him, does the same thing. Well, he doesn't get to finish his full attack because the demon makes an appearance. And by experiencing this half attack, if you want to call it, that is where this character, the hitman, acquires some meta abilities. Specifically, he gets some low-level X-ray vision and low-level mind reading. If he's within a very short distance of people, he can hear their thoughts. But the story continues from there. It is set in Gotham City. This first issue ends with him emerging from the hospital with these powers, by the way. But as the story goes on, Batman, of course, shows up. So you get the rare occurrence of Garth Ennis writing some Batman, which he does very well. I really wish Garth Ennis would write a Batman story. He never will, because he doesn't like the character, but he can write the character very well. Similar to the same way he can write the Punisher so very well. But anyway, there's a very, very iconic moment in this particular story between Hitman and Batman. And I'll just go ahead and give that one away. And I remember reading this when it came out back in the early 90s, and I loved it. I'm like, oh my God, that's amazing. Batman shows up, and the hitman, whose name is Tommy, is shooting at him. Batman swoops down and gives him a vicious punch to the gut, and the hitman immediately bends over and pukes all over Batman's boots. That made a lot of waves in the comic book industry whenever that hit. It was all over Wizard Magazine. I mean, people were writing in about it. And apparently Garth Ennis was going to have Hitman doing something else, but editorial made him tone down that panel so the toned down version is Tommy Monahan puking on Batman's shoes as a result of being punched in the gut, but immediately after the next panel, after Batman is aghast of being puked on, he uppercuts Hitman so hard it knocks him off his feet, which is pretty great to see. But all in all, it's a really fun story. It's a great character. Of course, Garth Ennis is writing it, so it's definitely one of a strong story by him, if not one of his stronger stories, especially within the DC universe, which he didn't do just a ton of outside of Vertigo. But the success of this particular character was so strong that they ended up giving Garth Ennis and John McCrea a solo series for Hitman that went 61, 62 issues. I've got most of those. It's a really fun series, and it's a character that, just kind of made a short term but big splash at the time, and then went away. So not a lot of current people that are reading DC are even familiar with this one. But if you're looking for something, and they're cheap, you can go back and buy these old issues pretty cheaply. But it's definitely worth a read, especially it's a not so common occurrence for Garth Ennis to be writing that much DC material within the main universe, that is.
I don't know that I've ever read any of the Hitman stuff.
Well, and I've mentioned it on the show before. If for no other reason, you need to search out Superman's appearance in the Hitman series, because it's hailed as one of the most iconic Superman panels in comic book history.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it's definitely worth a read.
So
I'll have to see if I can find some of the copies somewhere, find the Omni or Collected or something.
Mm-hmm. And they were actually going to, DC was actually going to bring the character back, but it's one of the things that got kiboshed by the impact of COVID-19.
Mm-hmm.
I could see them doing something really cool. I mean, hell, they could get John McCrea back on it. He's still doing work. I mean, he just did the Dead Eyes book. Those 4 issues, which was fantastic.
Mm-hmm.
They need to get that man back working. I'm going to ask you, gentlemen, to look at your calendars and look at your watch, your watch eye. What's the plural of watches? And mark the date and time, because I'm going to admit that I was wrong. Gasp, shock, awe, gasp. So you both have been absolutely, just follow me down the rabbit hole till you realize where I'm going with this. You guys have absolutely been loving this new Batman line, right?
Joker
Wars, and it's been fun. I've also been reading it, but it hasn't really struck my fancy. And one of the things that James Tynion has been doing left and right is introducing new characters. Which is smart from both a storytelling point and from a sales point, because everybody's convinced the next first appearance is going to be like the next Deadpool, yada, yada, yada. One character that really took off in that series and had a lot to do with the Joker War that I rolled my eyes at heavily and did not care for at all was this character. She's kind of derivative of Harley Quinn. She's called Punchline. And when she's Joker's new girlfriend, I guess was poised to be that. And when she came out, I immediately didn't care. Thought it was dumb. Just didn't want anything to do with it. And that's wherein I say that I was wrong, because James Tynion has now taken that character and is really fleshing out who that character is and what that character does, by giving her, I guess, her own book, which, self-titled. It's called Punchline. I'm not entirely sure if the book is going to be an ongoing series, if it's going to be a mini series.
I think it's a mini.
Yeah, well, because at the end of the book, it just says to be continued in 2021. So,
Yeah.
like I said, I genuinely don't know what's more to become of this, but it takes up after the Joker War and after things are kind of settling down in Gotham. I absolutely adored this book. Like I think this book is fantastic. It complete, com- with Sea of Sorrows, I didn't have any expectations going in, and that book blew me out of the waters. With this one, I hesitantly picked up the first issue, uh, thinking that I was going to hate it, and it ended up being like one of the best things I read last week, like hands down. And so, like I said, it's written by James Tynion the fourth and Sam Johns, art by the great Mirka Andolfo, colors by Romulo Ferraro Jr., letters by Gabriella Downey, with a cover by Yasmin Putri, who it's pretty. It's a cool cover. So this character, like I said, she is. We were talking about earlier. What's the difference between homage and derivative? And before this book, I would have said she's just absolutely derivative of Harley Quinn. Now I think I've completely reversed course on that. And her name is not just Punchline, but she is a young woman named Alexis K. And she didn't look for the Joker. She didn't set out to find the Joker. She never, at least to hear her tell it, never intended to be Punchline. As with a lot of things, life just kind of led to this moment. She took a school field trip to a local news station where they were going to watch kind of the production of the local news being made, and it just so happened that it coincided with the Joker planning an attack, where he laugh gassed. He put his Joker gas all on the entire crew and the news people, and wanted to spread a message. And that was the first time she really got up close and personal with the Joker. Like he was going to make her read the news. She saw him murder people. And of course he was thwarted in that moment by none other than the Batman himself. Like, bats jumped through, stopped the Joker, but that put her on a path. She got obsessed with the Joker. And all of that led her to be Punchline. But like I said, this book picks up right after the end of the Joker War, and Alexis K, Punchline, has been taken into custody, and she's getting ready to stand trial, and they are charging her with her own crimes, but because of the way that conspiracy laws work, she actually is being charged with everything that the Joker did. And that's real. Like that's the way conspiracy laws work. Like the one conspirator speaks for all conspirators. If you have a conspiracy to go and rob a store or to do something, and somebody gets murdered, and even if you didn't pull the trigger, you get charged with that murder. And so she's going in front of the judge, and they're trying to determine whether or not she is fit to stand trial, whether she is mentally incompetent, whether or not she is going to be able to actually hold these charges, or whether she's going to spend the next several years in Arkham Asylum. Well, she maintains and she puts forward that you would think, okay, prison versus a really long sentence, possibly the death penalty, versus let me go to Arkham and then I can convince these people that I'm sane and get out. She takes the approach that you wouldn't really expect her to take. She says, no, I'm perfectly fit to stand trial. I'm sane. I'm about my wits. And I want to do this. And I want to do this because I'm going to convince you all that I'm actually innocent. And of course the crowd, the peanut gallery all gasped. We're like, what is she talking about? Like she knows we saw her, right? Like there are witnesses that saw her do the things that she did. Actually kill people, not just do these kind of low key felonies, but we actually saw her murder folks. But she's going to try to maintain that she's innocent. Well, sitting in that audience is a character that I think most of you and most folks listening at home will know from Batman history, especially if you read James Tynion's work on Detective Comics back in the day. But it's Harper Row, who sidelines and moonlights as a superhero called Bluebird. And the reason she's there is because she is actually an assistant to one of the psychiatrists who is testifying as to Alexa, as to Punchline's mental state, that she is mentally fit to stand trial, that she is aware of what she did, and that she doesn't need to just go straight to Arkham. And so as they leave the courthouse, she's just like, what do you think about that? Like, well, I feel like something's off, something's going on. And this turns out, and this might be actually what made me like it more than anything, to be a story that's just as much about Harper Row and her brother Cullen, who are very tight. They live together. They're really friends, as much as it is Punchline. So Harper goes home and is talking to her brother, and she walks in, and her brother is watching that YouTube video that Punchline sent out to everybody at the end of the Batman run. And the whole thing is to kind of make people question what is before their very eyes. And it starts to work with Cullen. Like, he starts to ask, did she, what did she really do? What did, are we convinced that she's that bad? I'm not entirely sure. Like, I watched this thing, and she seems like she's sorry. She seems like she's genuinely ashamed of what she did. But she seems like she might be kind of the victim of the Joker more than anything, which is, it's gaslighting, right? Like, that's the entire point. And so he starts questioning it. And Harper's like, no, like, she's a bad guy, Harper, or Cullen. She's, this is what she's doing. But hey, look, just chill. You can't go anywhere tonight. I've got to go to work. I've got to go do some other stuff. Stay in the house, stay in the apartment, have some pizza rolls, play some video games, because the city outside is still wrecked. Like, Gotham is still rebounding from the Joker war. And so he's like, cool, whatevs. I'll be here if you need me. And he fires up the PlayStation, starts playing some Call of Duty, or whatever the Gotham equivalent of Call of Duty is. But he starts chatting with somebody. And this person that he starts chatting with is just like, oh, did you see that thing at the courthouse that was blasted everywhere? What do you think about it? And so he's telling this person that he's chatting with that, it's like, well, it's hard to believe. Like, we all know what we saw, but she does seem like maybe she's innocent. And he's like, well, here, maybe this will help persuade you. And so he sends him a link. And as it turns out, Punchline has recorded a podcast. It's kind of one of those true crime, true detective podcasts that she's got umpteen dozen episodes of her searching for information about the Joker, and in turn searching for the Joker, that leads from the one time that she was in the newsroom with him to her becoming Punchline. And it's all propaganda, right? Like, it's all bullshit. Like, it's been released specifically for people who are susceptible to disinformation on the internet. And that's where I start to love Tynan as a writer, because this is one of the smartest books, I think, that he's written in the DC universe. And that's saying something, because Tynan's smart and his writing is smart. But essentially the whole plot and purpose behind this story is that you have somebody who is manipulating the pop culture zeitgeist. Like, you have somebody who is manipulating mass media in today's modern age to convince people, a truly abhorrent person, somebody that everything about your common sense and everything that that little voice in the back of your head tells you is a bad person, is manipulating mass media and pop culture to essentially brainwash anybody who will listen, triggering on these people who are susceptible to these messages, who kind of deep think their way around the outskirts of moralisms, so to speak. And she starts convincing not only people like Cullen, but anybody and everybody who will listen that she's the real victim here, that she's innocent. And it builds on itself, right? Like, this isn't just one thing where it's just like, okay, one time only and I've changed my mind. It's a series. It's an entire series where it casually and over a window of time, it changes the perception of the people who are listening, to where at the end of this book, Cullen and Harper's relationship as brother and sister is starting to deteriorate. He's now become fully Team Punchline, and he and this dude that he was chatting with kind of meet up outside the courthouse to join a protest in favor of Punchline. Like they're carrying signs that say "No crime, no time." They start to wear Joker masks outside as they're protesting the prosecution of somebody who's a murderer. And Tynan's not playing with the reader here. He's not, like, his work alone is not trying to convince the reader that she's the bad guy, because all through the story she's talking to Joker goons and she's talking about what she's doing and she's releasing the misinformation. She goes from the personality of Alexis K to Punchline all through the story, and you can see the mechanics of how this is working, of what she's doing, and it's so it's impeccably well written. I cannot wait to see where this story goes. Sideline, I mean, I guess because, and I always appreciate representation. The dude that meets Cullen, there's an attraction there. Like Cullen's always been throughout his character arc. He's been a gay teen, a young gay person. So there's an attraction here, and you can tell right off the bat that this person is in on the game, so to speak. Like, there's one panel where it shows him, and he is very cognizant of what he is doing. Like he's recruiting Cullen. He's recruiting people like Cullen to this, to be this kind of social movement that gets the bad guy off. And it's very easy for somebody like me who has the political ideology that I have. Like, I mean, I'm fairly far left. Anybody who's listened to the show, you guys on here, you guys know, like, it's very easy to draw the line to what Donald Trump has done as president, and like what he's done, like his disinformation campaign. But I think if you only draw that line, like, you're missing the forest through the trees. One of the first things that came to my mind was kind of exactly what happened this past year with, and this is ridiculous, but we live in a ridiculous world, was the Tiger King show. Like, because he's putting it out to make like the person who is the Tiger King in real life was plotting a woman's murder, committed several crimes, is an abhorrent human being, but helped make this show to where people got to see kind of the inside of him, and was poised in a way that I think, at least in the beginning of, he was very hand on the scale in how he was presented. People got to see the absurdity of his life, and because it's so absurd, they start to not create a hero worship thing out of his existence, but they start to be entertained by it. And through that entertainment, they start to question whether or not he was who he was. And he ends up becoming this staple of the modern zeitgeist. He becomes this pop culture cult figure who literally had people writing in trying to befriend him in prison and calling for his release. They were trying to get him pardoned. And these are not people who I think are, and I could be wrong, this is me maybe being an optimist for one of the rare times, but these are not people who I think are inherently bad people. I don't think these are people who are real people in the world today who would be okay with murder, who would be okay with anything that he did, but they've become enamored by what the internet, so to speak, or just popular culture says he is. And they're calling for his release. I think you see the same thing in what's going on with this Kenosha shooter kid right now. That this dude rolled across state lines, got an assault rifle, used an assault rifle to protest people who were protesting against police brutality, ends up murdering two people. I'm using the word murder. That's not, he's accused of murder. He has not been convicted yet. Anyway, his actions led to the death. He shot two individuals. He shot two people who were protesting and enacting their First Amendment rights. And now you see certain celebrity figures and certain internet personalities, certain people who may or may not be in charge of actual portions of our government, treating him as a hero, showing that he's not really that bad guy. Like, yes, like you're saying that you're missing the point. Like, what he did wasn't wrong. And they're turning a bad person into a minor cult celebrity who, in order to get public opposition to his conviction. Like, and this is one of those things, like this book, I have no idea when James started writing this book. I have no idea when Mirka Andolfo started drawing this book, but I don't know if it was before or after the Kenosha shooter, but it certainly wasn't before or after, or it certainly wasn't before kind of these last week when a lot of this stuff came down. And so, like I said, I look more up to the psychology of the book, to what makes this so interesting to me. And it's a testament to Tynan, to be able to treat this book and a character that I thought was so wholly derivative, so ridiculous, so unnecessary, and to make her the center figure of what is arguably a book that should not be a superhero book. Like if this book was absent of superheroes and was just being written about quote unquote normalized people, I think Fantagraphics publishes this book. I think Drawn and Quarterly publishes this book. But he's doing it in a superhero world, which is above and beyond anything I could have imagined. And he's got Mirka Andolfo drawing it. And if you've never seen Mirka Andolfo draw, you're doing yourself a disservice, because she is her artwork is so vibrant, so lively. She every angle is purposeful in what she does. Her expressionism is intense, and her figures are just, it's comic book art, right? Like she's not trying to make it comic book art, but she does that thing where a single line, if it was not there, if that single line wasn't there, it takes away from the entire expression of what's being told on the page. And she draws these young people and these kind of counterculture type people exactly the way that I think it speaks to the audience. It speaks to the people who need to read this book. And in a way, and I kind of wonder, and I would love to talk to Tynan, and I would love to talk to Mirka about this, just because they're interesting people in general. But I wonder how much of this is, if there's anything behind this book, and if there's anything behind the way that this is being written, as in their mind, if this is a counter to the propaganda that's being put out across the internet about about what they're talking about, or if it's just being told to tell a story. But either way, it's very instructive on how like young people are recruited to these alt-right groups, to these extremist mentalities. And I'm kind of obsessed with it now. I can't wait to see what they do with it. So job well done. Like I can't like, I did not, if we had have taken bets that I was going to talk about Punchline as a book, I think I would have lost money. But if you hadn't read this, you need to.
Yeah, I read a good portion of this book. I kind of fell off of it about halfway through the court drama because I wasn't interested in a courtroom drama book, but apparently it was a bit more than that.
Yeah.
As far as Mirka Andolfo's art, though, you never go wrong there.
No. Yeah, like it doesn't surprise me that no, I was going to say it doesn't surprise me that you dropped off of this book. Part of when it first started, I kind of wondered if this was going to be similar to the 12 Angry Batman that Tom King and Lee Weeks did, that we all kind of like we weren't feeling. But the pace kicked up for me.
Yeah, that's exactly what happened. As I was reading it, and I'm going, I don't care about her courtroom drama story.
Well, if nothing else, what the book was successful in doing for me was clearly separating why this is not Harley Quinn Part 2.
Absolutely.
Exactly. Which I did pick up at the beginning of the book for sure.
And one of the things,
but I kind of had that feeling anyways, based on the context of the way she was used in the Joker War. Mm-hmm. I didn't, she obviously was her own person that just had a look similar to Harley Quinn's.
It could have gone either way for me. I needed a book like this to fully flesh it out. It's kind of like, I think Matt's what Matt said just hits it. Like this solidified it for me. Like there was already something there, but this really drove that last nail in to make sure that it was a sturdy foundation for this character to go on, and for her to have her own story. But yeah, no, I loved it. And one of the things that I'm fascinated with, and I don't know if this was already canon, I don't know if this was a thing, but apparently there is a pseudo aquarium that serves as a monument to the people who Joker killed when he made the Joker fish. And they actually have some of the actual Joker fish in this aquarium as a monument and a memorial to those people, which I love the Joker fish. Like that was a really fun story. I always get a kick out of whenever I see the Joker fish show up. But they've the city Gotham has monetized it, right? Like they've not only served it as a memorial, but like they're actually selling like plushy Joker fish to, I guess, raise money for the upkeep and care. And like that in and of itself is a statement of about how we as a culture monetize tragedy. Like think about what it would mean to sell a plushie of a machine gun to a memorial for kids who got killed in a school shooting, or for that matter, like what would happen if you rolled up in the middle of New York and you saw them selling model airplanes at the 9/11 museum. Like that's essentially what they're doing, and they're showing the absurdity of how we monotonize the aspects of tragedy in this culture. To really drive home this how this character is their own person, and to tell a larger, broader story about culture, which I'm fascinated by. Like I said, I think it's cool. I'm actually glad. Like, yeah, Craig, go back and read the book, because I would love to hear what you think about it.
All right, will do.
The examples you use there, Caleb, about monetizing tragedy, and the examples you give, but those things don't happen. So
no, that's true. That's true. I think it's upplaying it, right? Those things don't happen in that way, but Hollywood loves to make movies about these things. There are people on the internet, or people who create groups who love to profit from tragedy. So, and yeah, like it doesn't happen in that way, but I think this upplays, as any good comic book should. Like it's a comic book, but it upplays something that actually happens. Maybe not to that extreme, but it does happen.
Fair enough.
I can't preach about this. I can't sing this book's praises enough.
Awesome. Yep, I'll have to go back and finish it. Like I said, it presented itself one way to me, and I was like, nah, I don't care. So based on the fact that that's not in fact the case, I'll go back and finish it.
I kind of want to get a Joker fish plushie and give it to Matt for Christmas. If you get a package in the mail, Matt.
Man, that's a gift one should accept with caution.
Right?
It's nothing with love. I'm actually surprised you picked this up, Matt. I didn't think that this would be a book for you. Kind of in the same way that I didn't think it would be a book for me. As far as the totality of it goes, what do you think about it, though?
I mean, I thought it was okay. I mean, when I picked it up, I assumed going in that this was going to be a vehicle for this new character, and that Tynan would just make it a point to illustrate why she is not Harley Quinn Part 2, and that's exactly what I got from it.
Mm-hmm. That's basically what it, and like I said, I love that he put these two kind of tangential characters who, I haven't seen in a while. So anyway, it's fun. So good stuff all around. There's just some really killer comics coming out. Like if you can't find something that you enjoy, then you're not looking. You're not looking for comics. So either old or new, because there's just some great stuff. But well, all right. You guys got any final thoughts? Any last words on those books we read?
No, I think we covered the bases.
Very cool. Well, as always, before we wrap this thing up, we are going to end the show by telling those awesome folks listening, those folks at home, those folks who are going to go pick up some more books this week, maybe based off our recommendation, maybe just because they're smart people and they know what they want. But we're going to give you guys a taste of what we are thinking about grabbing this next week. We're going to kind of set the menu for you, so to speak. And as always, I will nod my hat to Craig to let him tell me what he's going to buy on Wednesday.
I am fairly certain that neither one of you have this book picked out. So this is Fantagraphic Books, and this is the Complete Peanuts Volume number 14, collecting 1977 and 1978 strips. I've collected this entire series up to this point, so just another book in that line for me to grab.
That's awesome.
And if you love the Peanuts, you should collect these. They're very nice looking on the shelf, and you get, you know, an entire 2 years worth of comic strips.
Nice. Well, mine, I'm going to continue to toot this horn until the series ends, I guess. I'm going to pick up Marvel's X of Swords Destruction #1. Jonathan Hickman, Pepe Larraz, and Tini Howard are on this one. And the synopsis is just 3 sentences. The wheel of fortune turns, the unfortunate fall, a sword against the darkness. So I'm stoked about this.
I've got to get caught up on this event.
Yeah, it's wrapping up quick. And as I spoke to earlier, apparently big happenings are coming. So the creators are warning about spoilers online.
Well, as you would expect from a Hickman event, right? It's not going to end with a flub usually.
Yeah, everybody goes home comfortably.
Yeah. and at the end of it, we find out that Superman's actually a hero.
Yeah, it's got a nice now you know message at the end. We all learned a lesson today.
Yeah, the more you know, with a little rainbow and star.
Yeah. This story was really about building character and self-esteem.
Dude, if this entire series doesn't just kind of solidify Tini Howard as a household name in comics, I don't know what will, because like that entire creative team, Hickman, Howard, and Pepe Larraz, is just stupid. How much talent is in that, like those 3 names.
Yeah.
Well, all right. I am going to tell everybody and encourage everybody to go pick up the beginning of the next chapter of a book that I absolutely loved from this past year. It is from a little company. I've been a cheerleader for them for a little bit, called Vault Comics, and the book is called The Plot, and the 7th issue comes out this next week, and it's basically the beginning of the 2nd arc. For people who don't know, it's being written by Michael Morrissey and Tim Daniel, and Josh Hickson is the artist on it. The first arc pretty much covered the bases of who these folks are and what they're doing. Chase Blaine is the main character, and he kind of is the owner of basically his family estate. Like, it was bequeathed to him from, you know, his father, and it's kind of gone down through the lineage, but it's haunted. So it's, you know, he comes to be in the possession of his niece and nephew. Like, you know, they're living with him for a little bit, and it's a horror story. It's a ghost story in a lot of ways, but it's more than that. And it looks like in this one, they're really going to get down to trying to break the curse of this house and the curse that it holds over their family. I love this book. I know I told you guys about it before. It's fun stuff. So go check that out. And check out a lot more. Go if you can, put on your mask, wash your hands, and go visit your local comic shop, or hell, just call up there and say, hey, you know, if I come by here, would you guys do curbside? Like, support your local comics business.
Just be safe, guys.
You know, just, there are ways that we can be smart about this pandemic and still support our local businesses, still support the people that we love, people who mean a lot to us, and support the medium that we all know and love. But don't downplay the seriousness of what's happening in the world. It's not worth your life. It's not worth your family's life. So just, I know we're coming up on a holiday, so just like Craig said, be safe, have a good holiday. So if nothing else, I'm gonna wrap this thing up the way that we always do. Craig, did you listen to last week's episode by any chance?
I have not as of yet. This week was a nasty week at work, so hopefully I'll listen to it this week.
Matt, you want to tell him what happened at the end of last episode?
No, I think he should have to go listen to it.
Okay. Well,
he needs to put the work in. That's what I think.
I think he will laugh. I think he will smile. And while you're,
no one knew to do the woo, right?
Oh no, the woo was done. The woo,
okay.
the Jerry woo will always be done. It's solidified
Gotcha.
now. It's part of the. We can't end an episode without doing the Jerry woo. That just wouldn't be right. And you know how we begin by doing the Jerry woo? I always say, go forth and love comics, and then Craig says,
Woo!
Just like that. All right. Bye, everybody.